What's up, everybody? I'm Brandon with Lines on Paper, and today we will be discussing The Curious Case of Batman Damned and the DC Black Label imprint. Batman Damned was supposed to be the flagship, the launch title for the Black Label. It was written by Brian Azzarello with art by Lee Bermejo. This was a Batman story that was supposed to be aimed at a more mature readership. This was going to be a darker storyline. And as many of you may have heard yesterday, the announcement that issue number 3 has now been delayed for 4 weeks, taking us from, instead of being released this week, was going to be released now mid to late May. So we are 5 months into a series that we have had 2 comics released for, which isn't a great track record, especially when you're dealing with one of the big 2 publishers. So to really understand the reasons for these delays, we need to understand the circumstances surrounding this story and the kind of the controversy that it stirred. So let's dive into Batman the Damned just a little bit. Batman Damned is about Batman being mortally wounded after supposedly killing the Joker. We say supposedly because Batman has no memory as to what happened to him leading up to the injury, just that he is bleeding out, and as he's doing so, he is slowly descending into hell. And as a result, all of the nightmares, all of the bad choices he made, all of the kind of demons he had in his life are flooding at him as his mind is shutting down, his life is flashing before his eyes. Joining him in this story, kind of trying to save his soul from drowning in the abyss, is John Constantine, asking the question of, can he save a dying man? Can he save Batman from hell? That's his role in the storyline, and he's kind of our point of view character in this story as he's trying to save Batman from his fate. This is so far a very, very good, very deep story. Halfway through the book, however, we are treated to some full frontal bat nudity during a nightmare sequence. And this caused a bit of a roar on the internet. A lot of people, this was the story of the day. This was all over the place. Google, all comic book shop news, Newsarama, or Nerdist, all of them were pretty much reporting on this for a solid 48 hours. And this really caused DC's editorial staff to go running for the hills. They quickly made a correction. They issued another version of the comic on the digital, which was censored to remove the nudity. They offered anyone who wanted to return the book had the option to, and they put out a second printing that was censored, and thus toned it down to probably about a PG-13 rating. Was this the best decision to have made? You can give me your opinion in the comments below. I'm going to go ahead for my opinion and say no. I think DC Comics set out to create a label for a more mature readership. That should include sex and nudity if the storyline calls for it, which in this scene, if the scene that was presented, I felt that it did. So I think DC should have just owned it, explained that this was a title aimed for adult readership, and gone on with things. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. And now, as DC moved to sanitize the rest of the series, we are forced with delays. Second issue was delayed a month. Finally came out, issue number 2, and it hit comic shops. It's not quite as well received as issue number 1, but that tends to be the case with comics. This follow-up issues never sell as well as the first, but this book had a lot of hype, so it still sold rather well. And the story itself was still a very dark, very grim tale into Batman's subconscious and the whole concept of life and death, and every journey has an ending, and all of that. That's great. And as you're trying to go through the story and trying to get into it, you are excited for the next issue, and you're hit with more delays, as now they're having to sanitize even more because they're putting this under a microscope. And it just begs the question, do we want a DC Black Label? Do we want a story option or a book option for adults that's more aimed at sophisticated stories written for adults? And if you're going to do that, then I say then there's no hold bars. Let the idea of creators being given characters with no restrictions at all is exciting for me. It's a chance to see something new. I would like to see these characters taken out of their comfort zone and me as a reader treated to stories that have more of an edge, that speak to me on a different level. And if that means there's going to be violence, there's going to be nudity, then so be it. And I'm not saying that the comics should by mandate have these things, but at the same time, I just don't think they should be taken off the table, because as long as anything is possible, then we don't know what to expect. And that's exciting, especially when you're dealing with characters that have been around for 70, 80 plus years. This is a way for you to explore different aspects of their story, of their journey, see them in a different light. And it also comes down to, in my opinion, we need to decide, is comic books an art form that, like any other art form, has no holds bars, that we can go to these places and we can look at it as art, or is it really just a commercial tool that's aimed at selling things at a certain age group? And if so, then I think a fan like me would want to kind of reevaluate which companies that I want to spend my money supporting, which comic books I want to collect, because there are options out on the indie tables that do have this philosophy where I can pick up an issue and I really don't know what to expect from one month to the next. And I like that in my comics. I like seeing things that are unexpected. Characters can be killed off at any time. An adult situation can pop up, and it's fine because I know what kind of book I'm dealing with. It'd be one thing if they were trying to cram these things into detective comics, but they're not. They created a special corner of their universe for readers that want to see, you know, a different, more adult take on their superheroes, and they should go with that. Especially when you look at our society, the most popular shows on television, things like Game of Thrones, Altered Carbon on Netflix, they follow that mandate. If nudity, if sex, if adult situations, if violence, if gore, if a character death, if any of that is called for the progression of the story, then it's put in there for the progression of the story, and we as the viewer or as the reader can go along with that and be entertained by it. And those unexpected moments are going to be what's memorable, what's a storyline. And it is fair to say that while all of this hype was happening over the bat nudity, I don't see a lot of outrage about Dr. Manhattan, who is currently traipsing through the DC universe with his Blue Willis out for everyone to see. So apparently some nudity is okay. Depends on the character. If it's an Alan Moore character, if it's okay. Even though that book did take place in a mainstream canon DC book, not even a special adult readers only book. So I don't know. I would really like to hear anybody's opinion on this. Put it in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Maybe I have a completely wrong take on this. Maybe there's a point of view that I'm not seeing. I'd love to hear it. If you agree with me, let me know. If you think that there is a place for stories with more mature content out there featuring the characters that we all know and love, let me know in the comments. I'd really like to know. So the question is, where does that leave Batman and the DC Black Label? Well, the rest of the book 2 came out. Like I said, I could tell that it had lost its teeth. You could feel the hand of censorship over it. So in the end, it's a particularly dark Batman story, but it's nothing that can't be put into a normal Batman comic on a normal day. I don't even see, other than the subject matter of the death of the Joker, why this needs to be an Elseworld story. I think that it lost something when they caved to pressure and censorship, and a story that could have been something memorable, something that a lot of readers would have enjoyed, has kind of been taken down and added a bit into the vanilla category. And now we're given an interesting take on Batman and his psychology, but definitely lacking the impact that it could have had. So, but hey, I could be wrong. That's my opinion. I'll be back to doing my regular comic review later in the week with a poll list, and I will have a special review of the new Hellboy movie that opens this week and let you know what I thought of that. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Please like and share the video if you enjoy it. If you're in a place or position to help the channel grow, visit our Patreon page. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.